In a world where legends rise and fall with every punch, where the roar of the crowd fades, but the stories live on. This is where those stories are told. This is Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. From the blood, the sweat, and the glory, to the controversies, comebacks, and knockouts, we go behind the ring, no fluff, no hype, and definitely no BS. Just the truth behind the fight game. And we've been doing it for over 2 decades. A podcast pioneer, now a Hall of Famer.
Great. What's that ego gonna be like?
And next, the comeback kid.
Wait, isn't he like 90 or something?
Shut up, he'll hear you. The reigning, defending, undisputed, heavyweight champion of boxing broadcasting. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. And it's on now.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Jaron. It's time for the Billy C Show. Good morning, good day, good evening. I hope you're doing all right whenever you're listening. And today's show, she's being brought to you in a part by my book, Tom Molino, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now, where all books are sold. You can get a copy right now while you're watching or listening to this very show. I'll tell you what, there's a special right now. If you go to BillyCBoxing.com, we put this link. We were experimenting with the publisher, and it's like $12 for the book if you get it through that link. So go to BillyCBoxing.com and get your copy today. Give a shout out to the first guy in the chat room, my man Joel, and I'm glad he's here. Today's show, we got another action-packed show for you today. Coming up later, I made a decision. I'm going to start my own. We did it years ago, but I'm going to start my own Billy C boxing rankings. And tonight, I'm going to give you my top 12. I'm going to do the top 12 in the divisions, and I'll get to the divisions a little bit later on the show. But I'm going to do the heavyweight division today. I'm so sick of seeing, these obscure names in the ranking system. So that's coming up a little later on the show. Also coming up, we have an interesting guest. Leeds, England's own Marshall the Matrix Fury. He's a young fighter who has chosen to get into bare-knuckle boxing as his pro debut. He's going to be on the BKB 47 event this coming Saturday. Paulie Malignaggi is the main event, which is a whole other story. We'll talk about that later too. I'll also get you guys caught up on the latest boxing news. I have a really great email from a listener I want to share with you. Also, I'll be sharing any questions or comments from the chat room. So if you're watching or listening somewhere other than our YouTube channel, come on over into the chat room and give us your thoughts or whatever. And by the way, if you want to send me an email, you could send it at bill@BillyCBoxing.com or Billy@Talkin, TALKIN, boxing, BOXING.com, and I will read it and respond to it on air. But first, let's get into one of the main topics today, and that's Jaron Boots Ennis says he put the super welterweight, junior middleweight on notice when he destroyed, his opponent, Usha. Let's see, it's pronounced Usha Lima, Ushima. I was saying Usama, but I guess it's pronounced Ushima. Ushima Lima in the first round. Look, let's just get to this right now. The official time was 1 minute and 58 seconds of the first round. It was a blowout. Ennis moves to 36-0 with 32 of his wins coming by knockout. Picks up a belt, which, guess what? WBA interim belt for the super welterweight, junior middleweight title, which kind of irked me a little bit because this was his very first fight in the junior middleweight division. And Lima falls for his second loss, 14 wins, 2 losses, and 10 knockouts. The devastating fight, or I should say the overwhelming fight for Jaron, it was par for the cause what I've seen through this cat's career. And I wasn't going to really say anything other than just, give you the results and stuff. Because, that's just the way it was, in my opinion. It was just it was what it was. It was a blowout fight, overmatched, the whole 9 yards. But the next day, it started. Sunday morning into Monday into Tuesday, and I'm seeing all this social media. I've been trying to spend as much time on social media as possible, and I'm starting to see all these comments on social media about Boots, and they're saying, and look, if anybody's ever watched this show, we're in our 22nd year, 22 year, whatever. But if you've watched this show over time, the one thing that you will, I'm sure, will remember. I'm not a big, huge fan of Floyd Mayweather. Personally, I think that, his success, and I don't definitely short him on that, but his success in the way he did it has, created a whole bunch of copycats. And I think a lot of the sport and where we're at now with these types of fights, these mismatches, so to speak, is because of Floyd. But I'm sticking up for Floyd right now. Yes, I am. On Sunday morning, I'm reading social media posts saying that Boots Ennis is going to surpass Floyd and that he's as good as Floyd was, and he's going to end up breaking Floyd's record, which doesn't really mean anything because it was, substantial in the heavyweight division. But we talked about that last week. And then it goes on to say that he is one of the best pound-for-pound fighters of all time, blah, blah, blah. I don't understand it, boys and girls. I know that those kinds of statements aren't coming from, knowledgeable boxing fans, because it's just a false statement. 35-0 with 31 knockouts, all right? Impressive, right? Let's take a look. Let's go to the videotape. Let's take a look. Well, no videotape, but let's take a look at his record, right? In the last 5 years, all right? 6 years, I'm sorry. In the last 6 years, Jaron has fought 14 times. That's an average, quite frankly, of 2.3 fights a year in the last 6 years. Now he's only 28 years old. These guys are already putting him in the Hall of Fame. They're already saying he's going to surpass Floyd Mayweather, who, people argue is one of the top fighters, not me, but, and they're already passing this guy, and when you take a look at his record, and I talked about this, let's go back to 2019. All right. He fought Franklin Manami, who went into the fight with 23 wins, 5 losses, and a draw. Okay. Now I got to give credit where credit's due, because this guy's career was carefully moved. It's just like this guy. Okay, 6 years ago, 23 wins, 5 losses, and a draw. Okay, and he won by first round knockout. Franklin Miami couldn't get out. He stayed on a stool after the first round. Now, if you look at this guy's record, all of his losses, 5 losses, were against decent, not above average, decent opposition. He lost every time he stepped up to decent opposition. The 23 wins, go check out who he fought. I mean, it was a joke, right? So then his next fight, which was also in 2019 against Demian Fernandez, who went into that fight with a 12-1 record. And Boots stopped him in 3 rounds, okay? Now, if you looked at the 12-1 record, not one win of the 12 of his, of all his wins, 12, was against anybody that you've ever heard of. And Coach is pointing out Manami was stopped in his previous fight. What's up, Coach? So not one guy you can, if you know these guys' names on Fernandez's record, you're better than me. I'll tell you that. His fight after that was against Bakhtar Ubiov, and he went into the fight with a 14-1 record, and he was stopped in 4 rounds. This guy was grossly overmatched, and he hadn't fought since that fight. So for the last 5 years, that was his last fight, right? Now, he did fight in 2020. He did fight Juan Carlos Abreu, which was a name. He was, so, it's like, oh, okay, here. He fought this guy. He went into that fight, 23 wins, 5 losses, and a draw. Was at Mohegan Sun in Connecticut. I believe I was even at that fight. And Boots stopped him in 6. I believe, and I give him credit for a name that was on his resume, but he was 34 years old at the time, and he was clearly deteriorating. He had lost a fight by stoppage. He had lost another fight by decision, and he lost 2 more times since then. Give a shout out to my man Hawk. He's popped in the chat room. Again, a name in his next fight was Chris Van Herden. Definitely was a name. He was 34 at the time, and the fight ended in a no contest, no decision due to a cut. And he only fought 1 more time after this fight and was stopped. His next fight was against Sergey Lipinets. Now, Lipinets was a good fighter. However, he moved up in weight to fight this fight. All right. He was 32 years old. He was giving up 3 inches of height. And he went into this fight with a record of 16-1-1. And he too was stopped in 6 rounds. Thomas Delorme, in my opinion, was the biggest name on his record to date, even to today. He went into the fight with 25 wins, 5 losses, and a draw. Was blown out in 1 round. He was a shot fighter when he stepped in the ring with Boots. And, he lost. He had previously lost to Terrence Crawford, Abreu, who I just mentioned, Ugas, and James. So he had already been, pretty much beaten up, going into this fight. And he was a shell of himself, losing in the first round. In his following fight after that in 2022, he fought Gustavo Clayton. This guy fought average competition. He was undefeated, 19-0 with a draw. He was stopped in the second round. I give Boots credit for beating him. He wasn't old. He wasn't shot. He was overwhelmed by Boots. But Custio Clayton was his name, and that was in May of 22. In 23, he fought Karen Chukadizian, and who had a decent win under his belt. Chukadizian beat Ryan Blue Chip Martin, but that's it, 21-1. And he went the distance with Boots. They went 12 rounds. According to the judges' scorecard, it wasn't close, but some people thought the fight justified a rematch, which we'll get to in a minute. He fought Roman Vila in his fight after that. That was in 2023. It was a decent win. Vila had beaten Speedy Ellis, who's a decent fighter, Miguel Parra, and he was stopped in the 10th round of a scheduled 12-round fight for an interim belt. Then he fought David Avesian. I'm killing the name, and I apologize. And he was 35 years old when he fought. He was coming off a knockout loss to Terrence Crawford in 22, and he went 5 rounds and didn't continue. Then the rematch with Chukahazian, which was a good fight. Again, he takes him to the distance and loses a unanimous decision. So when he fights a guy that's decent, he goes the distance not once but twice. Then he fought in his previous fight prior to Lima on Saturday night, Stanislaus. He was 31 years old, out of Lithuania. He beat a washed-up Delorme in 2021. He did fight Luis Collazo to a no decision. No other known fighters on Stanislaus' record, 15-0, could not continue after the 6th round. And in his last fight against Lima, we all know what happened. Of his 35 wins, 6 fights were against what I'm calling as known fighters. And every one of them were at the end or close to the end of their career. He does post some decent statistics, 87% knockout ratio. 89% knockout ratio. But listen, boys and girls, you give him credit. He was moved along correctly. He is not an all-time great yet. His career is far from over at 28 years old. He's got an impressive record against hand-picked opponents. I'm hearing people saying that he could beat Terrence Crawford. He could beat, he would have beaten Mayweather. All of this stuff. No, he won't beat Terrence Crawford. And there's no way he would have beaten Mayweather. For the boxing world to give him an immediate world title shot in a weight division that he never fought in before, that's one of the problems. It was sad. Coach is saying here, Boots was picking fights, basically cherry picking these fights I'm talking about, why Crawford couldn't even get anybody to get in the ring with him. I don't hear him calling out Crawford. I know all his fans are saying he could beat Crawford, but I don't hear him calling out Crawford. And quite honestly, is that a money fight for Crawford? Crawford doesn't need Boots. Crawford's, if he even fights again, I think he should retire. I've said it a million times. But even if he fights again, he's going to be a big dollar fight. It's going to be a rematch with Canelo or somebody like that. Boots isn't going to be that much of a draw. I don't care that he's with Eddie Hearn. It's just not going to happen, So anyway, listen, for everybody that's putting him in the Hall of Fame already, for everybody that's saying he's better than Floyd was, for everybody saying he could beat Terrence Crawford, slow the F down. He's not beating Terrence Crawford. I don't even see him going for the best of the best. At least some of the all-time greats, and I'm going to say Terrence Crawford because he will be an all-time great, whatever happens. He challenged himself and he went for the top dog in Canelo. Sugar Ray Leonard, when he retired, he came out, he went for Marvin Hagler. Great fighters do great things. All right. Floyd was a master at, taking advantage of the situation, and he was very financially successful. He's been able to market himself. Floyd is Floyd. You can't copy Floyd. These fighters that are trying to copy Floyd, it's not going to work. And I say that because not only for Floyd's talent level, but also the way he did it. Now it's just so obvious. At least Floyd, kind of camouflaged it for a while there that he was cherry picking. He was able to. They had the trinkets and stuff. Now when you look at it and put it in perspective, you could say, yeah, he's cherry picking. But this guy Boots Ennis, no offense, because he looked great, but you got to put it in perspective of the level of opposition that he's fighting. If you're a fan of Boots, let's slow it down a little bit. Get him in there with a name. Get him in there with another 28 or 30-year-old that's at his peak. Stop. with all of this. He doesn't deserve it, you know. So anyway, my man Captain he says by the time Boots fights a big name, Bud's going to be in the Hall of Fame. Hey, I'm hearing, and that's true, Cap. But I'm hearing that Crawford won't fight him. He's back. He's scared to fight him. Who said this? Crawford wasn't scared to fight Canelo. Everybody was afraid for his life. You think he's afraid of Boots in this? Come on. Hawk saying professional boxers should probably go on tour with the WWE. The real killers get frozen out and the cherry pickers get overrated and protected. Boxing isn't about who's the best. No, it's not. All you got to do is look at Jake Paul and his success, you know. And it is all about the money, like Hawk is saying, who could draw the most money. But you know what it is, boys and girls, let's be real. It's the sad state of the fans that are buying the tickets, the fans that are watching this crap. Anyway, some other fights I'll talk about. In a heavyweight fight that was pretty entertaining. If you didn't see it, go. I'm sure you can watch it now. But Arslanbek Makhmudov, you know, I wish we just had names like Smith and Jones and Johnson, but no. Makhmudov went and fought David Allen, who kind of had a little resurgence in his career. And they went the distance. Makhmudov, the scores are 115, 111, 116, 110, 117, 109 for Makhmudov's win. He improves to 21-2 with 19 knockouts. David Allen falls to 24-8 with a couple of draws, 19 knockouts. Allen said after the fight that he was never hit as hard as Makhmudov hit him. This guy is calling out everybody now. He wants a shot at Anthony Joshua. He says, I'd love to return to the UK and fight Anthony Joshua if Eddie Hearn can make it happen. Let me tell you something. Yes, Makhmudov has got a powerful punch, and he will definitely hurt anybody that he connects with. But if you've never seen him fight, he's like a statue. Anthony Joshua this guy would never get to hit Anthony Joshua. If Anthony Joshua fought smart, I think we saw, and this guy got knocked out not too long, but Hawk saying Janibek would beat Boots and Crawford. I don't know about Crawford. I don't know about that, but I agree that he would beat Boots. Crawford is a special fighter. He's smart, he's fast. He's everything that I wish Floyd was. The difference between Crawford and Floyd, in my opinion, I think Crawford can fight just at the boxing aspect, just as well as Floyd Mayweather did. Defensively, but offensively, Crawford has got a mean streak that Floyd never had. And Crawford goes in for the kill. Floyd never did. He did when he was younger, but when he became Money Mayweather, he never did. Anyway, there was another good fight on that card. Josh Padley won a decision over Reese Bellotti, 99-92 and 97-93 twice. If you remember that name, he went in and fought Shakur Stevenson earlier this year in February, and he didn't do all that bad, considering that he was cherry picked for Shakur. That was a decent fight as well. It was a decent card. There was a great fight from Jimmy Birchfield, Classic Entertainment and Sports, CES Boxing, at the Foxwoods Resort and Casino. I wish I was there. But the main event, Jacob Lefty Moraro improved to 11-0 with 8 knockouts when he took care of Argentinian Emilio Pac-Man Garcia. stopped him in the second round of a scheduled 6-round junior welterweight fight. Also on that card, Gotti Jr., John Gotti the third, was supposed to be in a win situation, but Daniel the Eagle catcher Ogori scored a major upset when he took care of John Gotti the third in the third round of their scheduled 6th round. He's a Native American of the Blackfeet Nation, and was got the fight at late notice because, if you recall, this fight was being billed between Gotti and James Hagler Jr. So, that happened there. So that was something decent for him anyway. We also had some other fights on that. And Amelia Moore, she was on this show. She improved to 3-0 with a knockout when she dominated a 6-round decision over Victoria the Fury Mason, who drops to 1-1. Keep an eye out for her. There was a firefight fight. Anthony Nieves improved to 2-0 with one knockout when he stopped Guilherme da Silva in what people that were ringside said it could very well be the round of the year. This was a trading bombs back and forth before the fight was stopped at 1:14 of that round. The card opened with a really good fight. Jonathan Figueroa improved to 7-2 with 6 knockouts, stopping Deshaun Johns, who dropped to 4-8 in the last round of their scheduled 6-round fight, 2 minutes and 16 seconds. Now Figueroa, his last 5 fights, all wins by knockout, and they all took place this year. So, listen, speaking of classic entertainment and sports, CES Boxing, November 1st is their next card, and it's going to be a good one. I'm going to be ringside, and I tell you, Rashidi Speedy Ellis, who's the main event, is going to be on this show next week. So we'll be talking about him. So if I were you, I'd be getting your tickets now. Go to CESfights.com and make sure you tell them Billy C sent you. Some news I wanted to talk about. My man James is saying somebody should buy me a scotch. Yeah, go to the fights and buy me a scotch. The other day I did an interview and I forgot. Remember when we had Above My Pay Grade guys on here? We did a interview with them. Well, they returned the favor and it had me on their show, and they had scheduled it, and I forgot all about it, So, I had my scotch, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, Jesus, I got to go on this interview. And it was a fun time. If you want to check it out, the copy of the interview is I put it on social media, but I'll send you the link if you want. Just send me a message. I'll send you the link, or you can go to Above My Pay Grade podcast, and it's on their site as well. But some boxing news. Nick Ball. Now, I love Nick Ball. I love him. He's a WBA featherweight champion. And apparently the WBA has ordered him to defend his belt against former champion Brandon Figueroa. Both camps have until November 12th to reach an agreement. Otherwise, the fight's going to go to a purse bid. Nick Ball, 23-0 with a draw. 13 of his wins coming by knockout. If you've never seen him fight, this guy never stops. They call him the wrecking ball. He never stops. He's a little crude. Nobody's going to say he's a polished boxer, that's for sure. But he's an exciting one to watch, and I love watching this guy fight. He's going to be fighting. Hopefully, they're going to fight sooner than later. I mean, November 12th. And listen, Figueroa is a good fighter, 26-2 with a draw, 19 knockouts. He held the WC belt at both 122 and 126 pounds. So I'm looking forward to that fight when the date gets announced. That's for sure. Speaking of England, I keep telling you guys, I love the English boxing scene, the UK boxing scene. They got these fighters like Nick Ball and, all the other young fighters, but obviously the Anthony Joshuas and the Tyson Furies, etc. What I like about the scene, and I've said it for years, is that, these guys fight and they fight each other and they fight each other early on. Well, Ben Whitaker, I don't know if you've ever seen him fight before. He's kind of amazing to watch. Eventually somebody's going to catch him because he does some crazy stuff. But he just signed a deal with Matchroom and Eddie Hearn, and he's Olympian and all that stuff. And he's getting his first title shot, a WBC silver light heavyweight title, taking place, on November 29th in Birmingham, England. Will be televised on DAZN. I'm loving this guy. He was an Olympic silver medalist, 9 wins, no losses, and a draw. He had that weird draw where he injured himself. He's got 6 knockouts. So we'll be waiting to see him fight because he's going to be taking on a punching machine. 19-1 with 13 knockouts. Benjamin Gavazzi. He's a German fighter. So we'll see what happens there. But that's a fight I'm definitely looking forward to. And here's another one that I'm looking forward to. All right. Here's another one. This fight, Amanda Serrano's going to get back in the ring. Yeah. Now, I don't know if you guys remember, but she had a fight against Erica Cruz. And it was a great action-packed fight that Amanda won. Her record now stands at 47 wins, 4 losses, and a draw, with 31 of her wins coming by knockout. Everybody, thinks of Amanda and they think of Katie Taylor. But this Erica Cruz fight that she had was fantastic. Well, they're going to have a rematch. It's taking place right after the new year, January 3rd. And here's the best part of it. Not only will you be able to see it on DAZN, but it's taking place in San Juan, Puerto Rico. MVP, Most Valuable Promotions, which is Jake Paul's company, is the promoter. And it'll be at the Roberto Clemente Stadium in San Juan, which is great. But here's the best part. It's a 10-round fight, 3-minute rounds. Amanda Serrano is an advocate to have fights for female fighters, 3-minute rounds. And so was Amelia Moore when she was on the show. And I've talked to my girl Chevelle Hallback, and she's all for it too. If you recall, the WBC, made a statement that it's not safe for female fighters to fight 3-minute rounds and blah blah blah. And most of the female fighters that I've talked to, they want to fight 3-minute rounds. And Amelia Moore, when she was on this show a couple of weeks back, she made an interesting point. She was like, we can't fight 2-minute rounds. We can't fight 3-minute rounds. They make us fight 2-minute rounds. But if we were fighting 3-minute rounds, would be worth more. They'd be able to make more money. And at first I said, during the interview, I said to myself, well, what difference does it make? But she's right, because if they were fighting 3-minute rounds, their purses would have to be more. So I'm loving that. That's for sure. So I got an email. This is from my man Alex Thompson, the other Alex T. We used to we had 2 Alex T's, and he kept referring to himself as the other Alex. But this is a really good email, and I want to share it with you. And again, if you guys have a comment or an email that you want to send to me, just drop it to me. It's real easy. Just go to bill@billycboxing.com or billy@talkinboxing, TALKINBOXING. If you follow us on all the socials, join my the Facebook group, Talking Boxing with Billy C. Friend me, follow me on Twitter. It's under Talking Boxing. And we just opened up an account. I think we got 3 followers on TikTok. So follow us there. And you can message me on social media with a question for the show, and I'll do it. But I do prefer the emails like Alex T did. He says, hey, Billy C., your Mayweather segment got me all fired up. I agree with you. He's not the best ever. He's not even in the conversation. Let me throw this out there. I think the worst thing that ever happened in Mayweather's boxing career is that he never lost a decision. The reason I say that is because that 0 at the end of his record is literally the only thing his fan base talks about. They talk about one other thing, too. They talk about, they try to say he beat the most world champions, which in an era where there's a plethora of world champions, the value isn't really there. And the show that he's talking about, I broke it down and told you guys why I think Sugar Ray Robinson is the best ever. And, he was what was it? If I recall correctly, I think Floyd beat 22 world champions, and Sugar Ray Robinson beat 18. But 18 of his world champions were the world champion, something we call unified world champion today. And Floyd never beat a unified champion, FYI. But anyway, he goes on to say, the reason I say that, I'm sorry. He says, if Jose Luis Castillo was not robbed against Floyd, we would not be having this stupid conversation over and over and over. This is true. That first fight, many people thought that he won that fight. Hey, Joel, the TikTok, I'm not even sure what the ID is, but if you go to BillyCBoxing.com, there's the TikTok link right there on the front of that page. But anyway, it's true. That first Jose Luis Castillo fight, a lot of people thought he won. And quite frankly, when he fought Oscar De La Hoya was winning that fight. If it wasn't for Nacho telling him, don't worry about it, you won this fight, and takes his foot off the gas and coasts the last 2 or 3 rounds, 2 rounds at least, and it could have been 3. That was the difference in the fight, Anyway, Alex says we should be having an honest conversation about his great wins while also discussing his pattern of taking calculated risks during the second half of his career against big-name fighters who had already been beaten. But that never happens. Instead, we have to keep having this foolish, the best ever conversation because of the undefeated record. Make no mistake, a lot of his marketing people are the ones that are putting that out there every day, or the unknowledgeable fan base, or the people that are same kind of people that are watching and putting Boots Ennis in the Hall of Fame already, But he says, anyway, he goes on to say, we have an extremely uneducated fan base in boxing right now. And I'm not talking about your audience, meaning you guys, my audience. He says, I'm talking about a generation of fans who know nothing about the past, and all they know is what they read online. And that blows my mind because they have access to more info than you or I ever did. We had fights on TV. We had Ring Magazine, NKO Magazine. We had books. God forbid anyone could read a book anymore. Younger fans aren't doing the research. You can't define greatness of today until you truly understand the greatness of the past. I can go on all day, but I know you got a show to do. Hey, listen, Alex, I agree with everything you said, and I've said it myself. I'm going to get to it in a second. Coach is saying Mayweather retired to get out of the rematch with De La Hoya. That's another thing I pointed out when I exposed his record. He only had 2 fights out of his 50 fights where he fought the same person twice. That was the Jose Luis Castillo and, of course, the Marcus Maidana fight. And a lot of people thought Maidana won the first fight. Hawk says Prime Glockman, Triple G, was the greatest boogeyman in the last 50 years. Prime Mayweather was the greatest ducker. Are we still going to get the fake Mayweather versus Tyson fight? I don't know. I haven't heard much about that. But just to follow up with Alex T, I hear it all the time. People, if I say something like, oh, so-and-so is a great fighter. And well, the video's not there, like Jack Johnson. I was talking about Jack Johnson one day, and I said, Jack Johnson was one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. And I got somebody mentioned to me, oh, no, he looks so slow and sluggish. Well, first of all, he fought in the early 1900s. The cameras that they were using were hand cranked, and it was one camera shot. And the lighting was terrible. And, the speed of the film was like in slow-mo. So you really can't, judge the film because it wasn't really there. So in a case like Jack Johnson, and Harry Greb is another one, people say, well, there's no film on Harry Greb. Well, you can't just dismiss the cat because there's no film on him that you can watch. You have to understand that the technology, really, you got to go to the late 70s before the video technology started getting where it could be clear. In the 80s, it was good, and then of course now it's great. The way they shoot a fight, but you can't just dismiss fighters. You go back to James Jeffries' time. Okay, now Jack Johnson I mentioned beat Jeffries, but you go back to his time, and at the time, he was considered the best heavyweight ever. And by the way, that era in the early 1900s was also considered by many experts as one of the greatest heavyweight eras ever. And people were saying, he cleaned up the division. He didn't even. People were like, "There's no reason for him to fight anymore." And that's when he retired. But when Jack Johnson won, it became a racial thing. We were in the middle of Jim Crow America, and people begged Jeffries to come out of retirement. He was happy. He was fat and happy, and he had an alfalfa farm out west. And he went trained, and he did get in good shape. But But my point is that you have to, like Alex T says, you have to do the research. If you really care about boxing, look in the past, because if these guys didn't give what they gave, most of them, their lives, their futures, everything, because how brutal the sport was, it's been cleaned up to help guys like Mayweather achieve what he achieved, and Mayweather, took some of the things that other fighters learned and did and created his style. I saw something the other day on Muhammad Ali saying that, the greatest fighter of all time was Sugar Ray Robinson. And he waited. I saw a story where he was heading out to the Olympics. He hadn't even won yet. And he was heading out, and he waited for Sugar Ray Robinson in Harlem outside of his place. And he waited all day. And finally, Sugar Ray Robinson came, and he jumped up and he introduced himself, and he's like, "Oh, I just want to tell you, you're my idol. I'm trying to emulate you. I'm going to go fight for the United States and, in the Olympics." And Sugar Ray Robinson blew him off. Basically said, "Yeah, okay, kid, see you later." And Ali wanted his autograph, and he didn't even give him his autograph. They became real tight later on. And, obviously Ali accomplished what Ali accomplished. And one of the last visits that Ali had with Sugar Ray Robinson towards the end of his life, he wasn't doing too good. And Muhammad Ali went to him and basically said, "You're still my idol. You're still the best fighter ever." And Sugar Ray Robinson basically said, "Oh, I thank you. I appreciate it." And then Muhammad Ali said, "Where's my autograph? You never gave me your autograph." And Sugar Ray Robinson gave his autograph, which I thought was cool. But anyway, so the historical aspect of the fight game, you really have to learn it, in my opinion, if you're a fan. I think one of the problems today is that the fan bases aren't knowledgeable, and it it hurts the sport, in my opinion, because listen, in any sport you should kind of do your research and know about the history. My sports, obviously boxing, and I'm a football guy. I love football, and I pretty much know a lot about the history of football. Baseball, I know. I'm not a stat guy like some of these baseball fans can rattle off. Who had the batting title in 1965 or something like that. I can't do that. But football, I used to, be able to rattle off all the stuff. The game has changed, so I'm not really as into it as I used to be, especially since I'm a Jet fan too, so that doesn't help. But Coach says Usyk adjusts to Johnson's best. I don't understand that. You mean Jack Johnson? So maybe somebody said it's not fair to say Jack Johnson would beat Usyk. I don't know about that. Jack Johnson. Look, in Jack Johnson's time, he toyed with his opposition, and he was all about making money too. Jack Johnson was one of my favorite fighters. He was all about making money. And as a matter of fact, people criticized him, specifically Sam Langford, because Sam Langford wanted a fight with Jack Johnson. Sam Langford, was another black fighter and was regarded as one of the best ever. And he wanted to fight Jack Johnson. They had fought earlier in their career, but he wanted a shot at the title. And Jack Johnson, being a businessman, didn't fight Sam Langford, not so much because, you hear the stuff, oh, he was afraid of him. No, that wasn't the reason. The reason was that there wasn't money when two black fighters fought each other during that time. They actually had a black, they called it the Negro Championships, where they had a heavyweight, the Negro, or the colored, they actually used the colored heavyweight champion or the colored middleweight champion. At the time, they wouldn't even permit, and a lot of fighters wouldn't even cross the color line. Jack Johnson, he did. He fought anybody, but he was specific about trying to fight the white fighters, and he used to throw a can of whoop ass on the white fighters. I mean, when he was forced to fight some of the black fighters, the fights were never as exciting. And they said that everything that I've read, and there's a ton of books on Jack Johnson, and everything that I ever read said that his skills was so far above everybody else. It was like a cat toying with a mouse. He just, to me, obviously the footage on him is very minimal, but all of the accounts that I saw and read, I kind of compare him to Mayweather. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of fighters that fought him couldn't hit him. He was very defensively sound. He was closer than Mayweather would be, but he was above and beyond that level of opposition. Here we got my man James is saying Charlie Burley never got a title fight. Now that is a guy that was one of the best ever, and you're right, he never got a title fight. And Murderer's Row, what is it? Harry Otter wrote a book, Charlie Burley and Murderer's Row. That was a whole group of fighters, black fighters in the Pennsylvania area that were really good, and they used to fight each other. Charlie Burley was one of them. One of the things about Charlie Burley, yes, he wasn't, nobody wanted to really fight him. And there was a lot of rumor that Sugar Ray Robinson ducked him and everything. Well, it wasn't about ducking him. It was about the money. And he never got the money to fight Burley. But here's the thing with Burley. Burley had his hands were very fragile. His hands used to break very easily. And a lot of times he would break his hands in training. And, I read many accounts where Charlie Burley had a fractured hand during a fight. He would put his broken hand in the glove and then go on to fight. So, and he ended up, I believe, at the end of his career, I don't know, he worked for a school system. I can't recall if he was like a janitor or a bus driver or something. And he was very happy with his after boxing career. But Charlie Burley was a guy that does not get the recognition he does. As a matter of fact, I have Charlie Burley on my all-time great list ahead of Floyd Mayweather. Great point, James. I love that. Hawk saying the footage I've seen with Jack Johnson was him beating up a lot of white guys about Triple G's size. Well, he was that much bigger than everybody. But the other footage you see a lot, the fights that you see of Jack Johnson, the fights, there are some training videos of him out there. But the fights you see most of the time is the James Jeffries fight and the Stanley Ketchel fight. And that's the one you're probably referring to, because Stanley Ketchel was a middleweight. And they fought, and, that fight was supposed to kind of be an exhibition. It counted. But the guys were not supposed to really, Johnson wasn't supposed to hurt Ketchel. And apparently Ketchel went for the knockout. And, the story goes that, and dropped Johnson. And Johnson got up and smashed Stanley Ketchel. As a matter of fact, a lot of accounts say that Ketchel's tooth ended up embedded in Jack Johnson's glove. Stanley Ketchel is another guy who was a great fighter, and we never got to see how great he was. He's on a lot of all-time great lists. He was a middleweight fighter, second to none, and he was shot and killed. He was shot and killed in the kitchen of his girlfriend's house by her husband, who came in and shot him and killed him. And he was in his 20s. He was in his 20s when he was shot and killed, and that was the end of his career. All these parallels, right? And here's an ironic thing. Here's a little story for you. I'm totally off the topics now, but so the guy who killed Stanley Ketchel, right? The guy who killed Stanley Ketchel, the husband of the woman he was, having an affair with, ended up getting convicted, and he went to jail. And the house, it was a farmhouse that he had, this guy went and served his time. That him and the woman split up or whatever, and the guy got out of jail and became I believe it was a oil truck driver, delivering oil to your house. He used to one of his customers was that house. He used to go to that same house, the scene of the crime, and deliver fuel oil, which I thought was kind of crazy. But anyway, Coach is saying the movie Fences was written with Charlie Burley in mind. Perfect match, Ketchel and Greb. Greb was, hey, listen, the thing about Greb, and why I get so aggravated when I hear people say that, there's not enough video of Harry Greb. He couldn't have been that good. Look, he had some losses. Look, the guy, they say he fought way too long. I believe his last fight, he was like 32. All right. He was blind in one eye. And he was that good. They didn't have footage of him. And by the way, boys and girls, one of the best welterweights of all time. Everybody thinks of Sugar Ray Robinson as a middleweight because he was on TV a lot, and there's tons of video of him. He had already retired and came back. He was a welterweight that cleaned up the division, basically retired, came back as a middleweight, retired, came back again. But there's no footage of Harry Greb or Sugar Ray Robinson as a welterweight. So, I mean, look, when you don't have video, you can't just dismiss it. You can't, So listen, for all the young fighters out there, fight fans, I should say, don't go by this. Don't get suckered in to these fighters. They're dissing you. They're taking advantage of you by not fighting tough fights. And I say that not in a way, because the defense is like what Floyd Mayweather says. Look, I still have my faculties. I didn't take a beat and all that stuff. Okay. But is that what boxing is? I mean, the definition of you're supposed to render. I mean, the definition of boxing is to hit, not get hit, but be in position to inflict damage on your opponent. Okay, not running across the ring, and the ultimate goal is to render your opponent unconscious. I mean, that's the sport. If we can't do that, then let's outlaw the sport. I'm not a big MMA fan. But MMA is more brutal than boxing. They say it's not because they can tap out, they can quit, and they don't take that sustained beating like they do in boxing, where boxing can go. A guy can be getting smacked around for 10 rounds, and that causes more damage than getting a beat up for 3 minutes and then it's over. But I think the data is going to come out on the MMA. And then once that happens, you're going to hear people, wanting to outlaw MMA. I would think, this bare knuckle boxing, and we're supposed to have a young fighter coming on here in a couple minutes. This bare knuckle boxing is brutal. I don't know if you have ever watched it, but I definitely watched it. Yeah, my man Dave. He's a trainer, and he says MMA is definitely more brutal than boxing. He's worked with both. I mean, I've always thought it was. I've seen some. I called a couple of MMA fights. I didn't know much about it, but I was thrown into. I was calling them, and we did a couple of events, and with MMA. But I tell you what's brutal is this bare knuckle boxing. And I watched the first time I really sat and watched it was a couple of weeks ago. I saw the title fight. And I just couldn't believe it. Well, I'm talking about the BKB. I guess the BK, there's a couple of different leagues. But to me, that's the most brutal that I've seen. And Joel is mentioning Paulie Malignaggi, and I was just he stole my thunder because I have it right here. Paulie Malignaggi is fighting Tyler Goodjohn in the BKB 47 main event in Leeds, England this weekend on Saturday. And, I when I saw that, I couldn't understand why Paulie Malignaggi would do this. That's the fight, Hawk, that I saw. Mike Perry fought Jeremy something. And, this guy, Jeremy, had him in trouble in the first round. Mike Perry was out on his feet. I was shocked that he didn't go down. And then Mike Perry turned around. It seemed to have woken him up. That's the fight I watched. And it woke him up. And, yeah, Jeremy Stevens. Thanks, Joel. And, it woke him up, and he dropped Stevens. And the guy kept getting up. And finally, in the fifth and final round, the referee stopped it. But both of them were busted up, something awful. And what I was getting at, and Paul and Coach just said, Paulie Malignaggi has already fought in bare knuckle, and he lost. He claimed that he was robbed and everything because he was trying to do bare knuckle boxing the way he fought. He was hitting, he was moving, he wasn't getting hit. But that's not what they judge you on in bare knuckle boxing. They want you to hit. They want you to engage. And Paulie is taking on Tyler Goodjohn this weekend. And I asked myself why. He signed I believe it's a 3-fight deal. And he fought once. He's fighting again this weekend. the thing is, like Joe's saying, yeah, he broke his hand in that fight, but he always had issues with his hands. And Cap is saying that too. He's saying, yeah, he always had issues with his hands. The thing is he was never known as a knockout puncher, Paulie. He was a boxer. He moved. He won fight. I just don't understand why he's doing this, to be honest with you, because of the brutality of the bare knuckle boxing. I mean, I could see some other fighters like I did a little research on BKB and was checking out some of the fighters and stuff, and some of them look like a stereotypical bare knuckle boxer. Some guy that would like Tyson Fury. The Gypsy King, right? Those gypsies over there, they fight bare knuckle, in the back streets, in the alleyways. My book, incidentally, which you can go to BillyCBoxing.com and get a dynamite price. We set up this link, and it's like half priced. I think it's $12, and it's $12 for pounds too if you're in England. So now's the time to get it. And you can get it through the holidays. So, and there's no quantity limit at that price either. So just go to BillyCBoxing.com and click on the book. But anyway, the guy I wrote about, Tom Molyneux, fought in the bare knuckle era of boxing. And in the United States, England had a more formal, boxing scene than the U.S. did. The U.S., they basically, some guys would be, having a couple brews or whatever, get into an argument, and they would have a fight right in the alley. And that was, considered pro because they got paid, But anyway, Dave's saying, check percentages. Most bare knuckle fights don't go to distance. Yeah, I could definitely see why they don't. They're terrible. Look, Papa's in here. He's saying Packy McFarland is another all-time great who never got a title shot. He beat the great Jack Britton multiple times. Yeah, Packy McFarland. He was another one. There's several great fighters. A good book. If you're a young boxing fan and you're looking to get a book, Bert Sugar's top 100 fighters of all time is a good one to get because somebody was telling me the other day, hey, you're today's Bert Sugar, and I'm like, yeah, well, Bert Sugar was a character, that's for sure. I hung with him several times, and he was definitely a character. One time we were at a Don King event at Madison Square Garden. I believe it was Roy Jones Jr. against Tito Trinidad. And we were in the press room, and he had to call his wife. And he didn't want to use the phone there, and he didn't have a cell phone, so I let him use my phone. He's going, I'll give you a cigar. I'm saying, that's okay. Henry Armstrong, another great fighter. Okay, we got my man on that we're going to talk to, but I just want to tell you, if you can hear me, I don't see your video. So if you can adjust that, I'll get you on air as soon as I see your video, and we'll get you on so that we can see you. I saw you there for a second. There we go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls and children of all ages, we've been talking about the bare knuckle boxing, and joining us right now from Leeds, England, where this fight card is going to be taking place on Saturday. Please welcome Marshall, the Matrix Fury. What's up, my man?
Yourself?
I'm doing good, man. I appreciate you staying up late. I know it's late there, and you're fighting this Saturday, so that's got to be pretty good. I got to ask you a couple questions. First and foremost, what made you? I mean, you have a pretty good amateur background in boxing. What made you choose bare knuckle boxing, man? I mean, we were just talking how brutal it is. I mean, what's the deal?
It was I did turn professional after my amateur career. Tried making it in the pro game, but I didn't have the financial backing that we needed to make it in the pro game. And then I've got two young kids as well, so it was either the choice of train 3 times a day, not be able to work and bring money in, or go to work and be able to bring money in for the kids. So that set me back a little bit, and I chose obviously the family life and making sure that I've got money to raise the kids. And then a couple of years went by, went back to the gym, just to get fit. Not a boxing gym, just a commercial gym, just to get fit. And then I met a guy called Danny Fletcher, who is actually a BKB fighter as well. Did a couple boxing sessions with him, and then he gave me the idea, and from there it stemmed into my debut now that's coming up this weekend.
Yeah, it's your pro debut in bare knuckle boxing, BKB. You're going to be on the undercard. We were just talking about Paulie Malignaggi taking on Tyler Goodjohn.
Yeah.
So it's in your hometown. It's in. So how's that feel to be making your pro debut in front of your peeps?
It kind of fell on my lap, to be fair. I was speaking to Danny, and Danny just said he put me onto the promoter. And then when I was speaking to the promoter, he asked me where I was from. Sent him some videos and stuff, and he said that obviously he liked what he seen. And then he said that the show that he can get me on's in Leeds, and I thought, well, that's perfect. To be fair, at least each in my hometown, I can represent my city, and I can sell as many tickets as I can, because people that wouldn't usually be able to come if they've got to travel far out, they can come watch me fight. So yeah, it feels good to have my debut in my hometown.
So tell me, I started getting into the bare knuckle boxing, and I got to be honest, I've been involved in the sport of boxing for a very long time, way more. Let me put it this way: probably a decade and a half, at least, more than you've been on this planet. Okay, and the one thing I noticed is it's friggin' brutal, right? So
Yeah.
how does a guy, and I know. You said the kids and stuff, and I know you have a lot of support from your wife and kids. How do you choose that, knowing that you're going to be in a brutal fight? I mean, I haven't seen any bare knuckle boxing where the winner or loser comes out unscathed.
I don't really know how to answer it. I think some people are just made for it, or some people aren't made for it. But I'll never be able to tell whether I'm made for it fully unless I get in there and I do it. And I'm confident in my ability, but I also know that BKB it's a different sport to what I'm used to, and anything can happen. It could be an absolute tear up. It could be an absolute walkover. I could get knocked out in 10 seconds, but no one knows until they've tried it. So I'm just going to get in there, give it my best shot, and see how it goes.
Let me ask you this: you had it, like I said, you had a 3-time. You were a 3-time national champion in boxing. As an amateur, and we all know when you're preparing for a fight, in boxing, you're sparring, you got gloves on, you got headgear. How do you prepare for bare knuckle boxing? I mean,
it's basically the same routine. I mean, it's not like we're gonna spar without gloves on, because you can't really, you're not really gonna recover well. So the sparring's still the same. We spar with gloves on. We train. I think the only difference would be the sparring and stuff is a little bit more intense, because there's no holding back when you're in there with someone who's bare knuckle. So I think the only difference that I've personally seen is the fact that the sparring's a little bit more high pace, high intensity.
Okay, but so are you sparring with gloves and headgear when you're preparing for bare knuckle boxing? Okay.
Yeah, still sparring with gloves and headgear on. You'll have heard of him, Scott McHugh. He's also fighting on the Leeds card. I fight out at the same gym as Scott, so me and Scott have been getting quite a lot of work in together. you could say, sparring partners throughout both of us camp.
So let me ask you a question. Did you get in a lot of street fights and stuff? I mean, because that's going to be like, the best preparation for bare knuckle, I would think.
Yeah, I won't say I'm proud of it, but yeah, growing up, I want the, I don't know how to word it. I want the most sensible of kids, and I did find myself in quite a few tear ups growing up. Even to my late teenage years and early adulthood, I was still finding myself in a couple of tear ups. But luckily, I've got kids now, and I've decided to do it the proper down the proper channels now. But yeah, I did get into quite a few fights as a kid. I know I can handle myself. I know I can take one. I've got faith in my chin, which is obviously another reason why I'm confident enough to be able to step in the trigon and fight with no gloves.
Well, I mean, obviously, like any combat sport, you want to hit your opponent and try not to get hit yourself.
Yeah,
So have you worked on any special defense? I mean, because it's a lot different. Nobody's dancing around in bare knuckle boxing. You're going right after each other, right?
Yeah, Scott's obviously very experienced. He's coming up on his 20th fight. This Leeds card will be his 20th fight, and I've been working closely with him on different guard techniques, different defense techniques, different clinch works. Because I've done clinch work and stuff as an amateur, and I've done guards as an amateur, but it's completely different. Obviously, it's not a closed hand guard; it's an open hand guard because you've got no gloves on. Clinches is a bit different. You can fight in the clinch. So Scott's shown me the ropes when it comes to that kind of thing. Yeah.
I got one of my guys in the chat rooms asking me to ask you, do you work on footwork?
Yeah, we still work on footwork. I mean, without giving away too much, because I want to put on a big show on Saturday. Footwork's a big part of my game anyway. It always has been since I was an amateur. Hence why I was able to win multiple national titles as an amateur. But we still work on the footwork and stuff. It's going to be different for me, trying to figure out footwork around a triangle ring instead of a square ring, which is obviously I'm not used to that. I've never boxed or fought in a triangle ring, so that's going to be something I need to get used to. But yeah, we still work on footwork, still make sure I'm light on my feet.
So I mean, obviously the object with this is, I mean, I guess you could say this for any combat sport, but the object clearly for bare knuckle boxing is get it over with as quick as you can, right?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that's what any BKB fighter wants. Ideally, you want to get in, keep the damage minimal that you get that you have to take to yourself, and dish out as much damage as you can and get it over with.
I mean, I watched the fight last week. We were just talking about it on the show. Perry, he won. He beat Jeremy. I forget his last name, but both of them looked pretty banged up after the fight. Even the winner. I mean,
Yeah.
what's your family say? Are they full support of it?
I've got 99% of the they all support me with it. They all understand. Obviously, it's something that I love doing. It's something that I've always loved doing. They understand. Well, not that they're confident in my ability. I've just got a couple people that are not doubting, but a bit cautious, saying obviously it is a dangerous game, which I understand. Everybody knows it's bare knuckle boxing. It's dangerous, but other than that, they still stand by my decision. They still know it's something that I've always loved doing. So yeah, they all support me in it.
So you, one of the things I learned about you, when you were asked, what are you doing this for? And your main goal is to win titles, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you're if everything goes well Saturday night, you're just going to keep moving forward, right?
Hopefully, that's the plan. I did it as an amateur, and I was always doubted as a kid. Didn't come from the best background, and I always proved people wrong. Went on to win multiple titles, won box cups up and down the country, regional titles, and everybody not used to tell me face to face, but I used to be able to tell. No one really thought I'd be able to do it, and I've got a nick for proving people wrong. So I want to do the same thing in this sport.
they're correcting me in the chat room. My man David is reminding me it was Jeremy Stevens. This is the second time they had to remind me who that was. And I watched the fight. I got so involved in it, and that actually led to you coming on this show. But tell us about your opponent.
Well, bit of a weird one with my opponent, to be fair, because I did have an opponent scheduled in for months now since I got on the show. And it was a guy who obviously I'd studied a little bit, looked into. He had a good background, over 150 combat fights across multiple different combat sports. But then I think it was Monday, I got the news that my opponent had been completely changed, and it's a completely different kind of opponent to the opponent that I had. So I was supposed to be fighting Liam Cullen. Don't really know what happened with why I'm not fighting him anymore, but I didn't ask too many questions. But he's more of a tall switch fighter, boxes at range, likes to use his jab, and then that's what I kind of trained for a couple of months. And then on Monday, it switched to a shorter guy. He's called Amari Grant is his name. Yeah. Switched over to him. Didn't really know anything about him. Seen a couple of clips of him. So to be honest with you, this opponent, I couldn't really tell you too much about him. Not really looked into it as much. I thought there's no point now. There's a week till the fight. Can't really change much. So just gonna get in. Best man wins on the night.
Yeah, I saw the original release said you were fighting Liam Cullen. And then, I got a fight poster, and you're against Grant, and I'm like, what? Yeah. So you just found out the other day?
I found out on Monday. I think it was either Monday or Sunday. I can't remember which one, but the other day, I found out that my opponent had been changed. And at that point, I mean, it's too late to change your training game or what. There's nothing you can really train for it. So I just thought to myself, it is what it is. He's got two hands, I've got two hands. We can both fight. We see who wins on the night.
This is what I love about it. Look, I am like the biggest fan of the UK boxing scene, whether it's bare knuckle boxing or regular boxing. You guys, you're willing to fight anybody at any time. The fighters here in the States would never have done. If the fight was changed, they would have been, oh no. So that's remarkable, and that's hard for you and for him. He's probably got an advantage because he knew a little about you before you knew anything about him.
Yep.
So you think you're gonna have to switch gears on the fly, or you're just going to go in, seek and destroy, and that's it? You don't care who's in front of you.
I've seen clips of him, so I know. I don't want to give too much away. But I know he's a little bit smaller than me, a little bit more muscular than me. So, but I've always liked to box to my advantages. Anyway, my advantage has always been I'm quite tall for my weight. I like to box at range, like to box with a little bit of class about me and technique about me. So it kind of plays to my strengths that I'm fighting somebody that's a little bit smaller than me anyway. But we all know it's BKB, anything can happen. So there's no point even going in there with a game plan at this point. We just go out, see. Like I say, it's best man wins on the night, really. I mean, with BKB, anything can happen. I might have a game plan, go out there, execute it perfectly in the first round, and then second round eclipse me, and you never know. The game plan's completely changed. So, in my eyes, for this fight, especially with under the circumstances, I think a game plan's pointless, and I get in there, feel him out, and then we go from there and we see what happens.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you what's your game plan, but pretty much there is none, right?
There is none, really, no.
So assuming you come out victorious, do you know when you'd be fighting again?
Not yet. I know there's a couple of shows coming up. I know there's one in December and January, but I've spoke to the missus, and I know I'm definitely going to be coming back into it. But I think the first thing on my mind is spend a little bit of time with the wife and the kids, because I work full time and I've been training, obviously leaving my wife at home with the two kids and stuff. So first thing on my mind is to just spend a little bit of time with my kids and my wife. But mark my words, if even whether I win or lose, I'll be back in the Trigon at some point. Probably next year at some point.
That was my next question. Because it's your pro debut, and if things didn't work out, would you continue? So you're in this for the haul.
Yeah, I'm in this for the haul. Whether I win, lose, I mean, I'm confident in my ability, so I'm not going to sit here and say I'm thinking I'm going to lose, because in my mind I'm winning this fight regardless. But if I do lose, there is the chance that I do. Then I'm still going to be bouncing back and coming back.
Well, that's good. I like to hear that, because especially in your first fight, and you get the last minute. I hope they threw you some extra coin. I hope they threw you some extra money for taking the last minute guy. But anyway, well, listen, I appreciate you coming on. I know it's late. One last question: how long have you been training for this fight?
Couple of months now. I think by the time, because the funny thing is, I was supposed to be fighting on this show, and then the card got filled up, so I kind of took a step back from training as hard, and then a slot came up and I was told, "Oh, you are fighting on this show," so I had around about 6 weeks full proper training camp.
That's cool. That's good. And so this is where you're going to be at, bare knuckle boxing. No chance that you go to boxing or MMA or anything else.
I mean, no one knows what the future holds, but my mind at the minute is on BKB. But we'll see where the future takes me. But for this moment in time, my mind is definitely set on becoming a BKB champion.
Well, that's cool, man. I wish you all the luck in the world, and hopefully one of these days I can come to your side of the pond and check out one of these events, because I'm sold on it. I like it. It's brutal. I will tell you, it's brutal.
Yeah, I know it is.
Warn your wife that you may come home looking a little different than when you leave.
She knows. She knows.
Well, listen, my man. You good luck, and we'll follow up. I'll reach out afterwards, and maybe we'll have you back on. You can talk about your victory.
Right, no worries. Thank you very much for having me on.
Hey, no problem. Good luck, man.
See you soon.
Take care. Ciao. Wow, nice kid, 22 years old, stepping in the ring, bare knuckle boxing. Wow, it's brutal. It's brutal. Yeah, Coach, we can talk about that. You got to give me the date. But anyway, all right. Listen, as promised, I'm sick of looking at all these rankings, man. You look at the WBC, you look at the WBA, you look at the IBF, the WBO, then you see the computer rankings. Then you see the Ring Magazine rankings, then you see the ESPN rankings. As far as the computers go, I like the IBO rankings. Their ratings, I think, are the best. Their computer to me spits out the most realistic. But Alex T is in there. Yeah, that the kid amazed me. But anyway, so here's what I'm going to do, boys and girls. I'm going to start my own rankings to tell you guys. This is just between us. But I'm going to give the rankings. I'm not going to have a champion because there's too many champions. So I'm going to rank the top 12 in each division. Oh, wait, here's a part I meant to mention. I'm only counting 9 divisions, boys and girls. I'm not going through all these bullshit weight classes. I added one to the original 8 divisions because I felt the way we have evolved over the last 50 years that I needed to include the cruiserweight division. So what I have is I'm going to be ranking the heavyweights, the cruiserweights, the light heavyweights, middleweights, welterweight, lightweight, featherweight, bantamweight, and flyweight. A lot of these lower weights are a couple of pounds difference. The junior middleweight. No, I'm going to take the combination of both, and I'm going to have 9 weight classes, and I'm going to give you guys my rankings. And today, I'm going to give you my heavyweight rankings to kick it off, because that was the easiest one to do, to be honest with you. Okay, so number 1 is Usyk, of course. Usyk is number 1. All right. Now, the rest of these rankings, I don't know how you're going to feel, if you're going to agree with me, if you're not. So make sure you drop me a line and tell me, do you agree? Do you disagree? Should I have somebody somewhere else? But this is the way I see it. The top 12 in the heavyweight division. Usyk number 1. AJ KBL as number 2. This is a guy that doesn't get mentioned as much as he should. I mean, look at his resume. Just take a look. He has won. I mean, I love this guy. And he's a legitimate number 2. Why he's not being discussed as a mandatory title shot against Usyk, I don't know. But I have KBL at number 2. I have Joseph Parker at number 3. Joseph Parker has proved himself. He's been in some big fights. He, too, has come off the canvas to win by knockout. Number 4, Daniel Dubois. Listen, Daniel Dubois lost to Usyk. But the fight before that, he fought and knocked out Anthony Joshua. I believe that he did have a good chance against Usyk. As a matter of fact, I picked Daniel Dubois to beat Usyk. And the only reason is because I thought Daniel Dubois would have fought Usyk the way he fought Anthony Joshua. Come at him like a Mike Tyson-esque type performance. But he didn't. He wasn't. He was more attack mode with AJ than he was with Usyk. Now, maybe that's a reflection on Usyk. But I thought Daniel Dubois did connect a couple of times, but Usyk hit him back and stopped him in his tracks and ultimately won by knockout. But I still have Daniel Dubois as number 4 in the world at heavyweight. Number 5, here's another one that people might disagree, but Filip Hrgovic. Hrgovic is another one of these good fighters, that seems to get lost in the shuffle. I got him at number 5. I have Tyson Fury at number 6. The reason why he's at number 6 is because he retired, but he's really not out yet for over a year. He's training again. He's going to be fighting back. He could conceivably jump up pretty quick. But right now I got him at number 6. And at number 7, I got Anthony Joshua for the same reasons. He came off a loss too, against Dubois. And, Anthony Joshua, to me, was such a talented guy. His chin just basically let him down. Number 8, Jared Anderson. Jared Anderson's a good fighter. I got him at number 8. I got Frank Sanchez at number 9. Everybody was mad at me because, I didn't have Moses Atuma as the guy. They're talking about Moses Atuma should get a shot at Usyk and everything. I don't think so, but I do have him at number 10, only because of his last fight, which incidentally was against the best opponent he ever faced. So the jury's still out on Atuma. Number 11, I was shocked that, I even picked this myself, but when I went through everything, I'm looking at this in a non-biased way. And I have Jarrell Miller at number 11. The reason I have Jarrell Miller at number 11 is because he's a tough SOB. I never was a big fan of Miller. But in his last couple of fights, he showed me that he's got heart and, he fights to win. He's got a weird style of coming on at the end when, you think this guy is pudgy, he's a Pillsbury Doughboy, he's going to run out of gas, but he comes on strong. I got him. Yeah, coach is asking me, you got Miller there instead of Martin Bacoli. Martin Bacoli he didn't do anything for me. And I'm only doing the top 12, and Martin Bacoli's got to beat somebody a little better. So I'm sorry, but this is the way I see it. And then at number 12, I have a tie. I couldn't pick number 12 between these two guys. And I probably should lean towards the one. No, I know Papa, he is a drug cheat, but he served his time. He was out of boxing. That, I think, to tell you the truth, I think that's what Coach is saying, PED Miller, Papa's saying he's a drug cheat. listen, he served his time. He was out for what, 3 years? And he came back and he was competitive. Hey, this is just my opening top 12. But number 12 I have as a tie. You're probably going to disagree, but I got Fabio Wardley and Lawrence Oakley tied. Coach, come on. You're being a little hard on me. You're saying it's like murderers doing 6 years. Look, I'm going by his last couple of fights. It shocked me that he, if you want me, we'll see how his next fight. But Fabio Wardley and Lawrence Oakley. Now, Lawrence Oakley is ranked high on some of these sanctioning bodies, but I think that, they're looking at his record as a cruiserweight. As a heavyweight, he really hasn't done much, but I give him credit. He's an interesting fighter. And Fabio Wardley, he's getting his shot, really, but I don't see him getting too much after that. So those are my top 12, A and B, number 12. So the next one I do will be the cruiserweight division, and I'll try not to get so much negativity as I'm getting for picking Jarrell Miller. But I just, listen, the guy shocked me by going the distance in his last couple of fights when I thought, and rooting for him to lose. But anyway, listen, boys and girls, I appreciate you joining me today. And we had a great guest. I want to thank Marshall Fury for coming on. I wish him all the luck in the world. Don't forget, next week, our guest is going to be now Pop is telling me he served 3 different drug bans. Then look, let's see how he fights in his next fight, and maybe he'll be out of my list. I had to start somewhere, boys and girls, But anyway, next week we got a good guest. Rashidi Speedy is coming on the show, and Speedy, is a guy that I'm looking forward to. Ellis, I'm sitting there. Well, Rashidi, yeah, it's Speedy Ellis, Rashidi Ellis, but nicknamed Speedy. He's going to be the main event on the November 1st card at Mohegan Sun. Get yourself some tickets. I'm going to be ringside, CESfights.com. Make sure you tell them Billy C sent you. Hey, listen, we'll have another good show for you next week. We got Speedy Ellis coming on. I got, in the future, no particular order, I got Boxing Bob Newman is going to be coming on, joining us. I got a young fighter that's from the West Coast. He's going to be joining us. So we got a bunch of really cool guests scheduled. We're pretty much booked or close to it right through the end of the year. So, listen, I appreciate everybody. Make sure you check out BillyCBoxing.com. You can get all the links to our social media pages. Follow us, subscribe to us, all those things. We could really use it. And buy the book. Get the Tom Molyneux book. If you go to BillyCBoxing.com, there's a sale going on, $12. And if you're in England, it's 12 pounds. I don't know. It doesn't weigh 12 pounds. It's not a big book. But anyway, hey, listen, boys and girls, you make sure you tune in same time, same channel, same place next week. Until then, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you. Thank you very much.